Are you living from your mind or your body? Now, I want you guys to think of something. I want you to think of a baby. When a baby is born, a baby is living from its body. It doesn't have the mental capacity to reason, to override, to give very constructed thought processes. And so babies react purely out of emotion. They're completely living inside of their bodies. When they are sad, they show it. When they're happy, they smile. When they are fearful, they are not afraid to express that emotion. They hold back nothing. But as we grow and as we get bigger, our emotions become a burden to the environment around us. Have you ever fallen off of your bike or fallen on the sidewalk and skinned your knee and went to a caregiver crying and they tell you, it's okay, just brush it off. You're strong, you've got this. Quit whining, you'll be okay, you'll live. Do you want me to call an ambulance? We get sarcasm and almost like negative feedback. Instead of getting validation and comfort for our sadness or our physical pain, we get told that our emotions are wrong. Don't be sad. You're strong. Brush it off. You'll be okay. In doing that, our caregivers essentially teach us that our emotions can't be trusted, that they're not safe to express, or that they're not valid. So instead of feeling sad or crying, we should take that emotion and suppress it. We should push it down, ignore it, and instead stand up tall, put a smile on our face, brush it off, and pretend that we are okay. Well, there is danger in doing this. After we are conditioned to treat our emotions like they are a burden or can't be trusted, we end up going through life suppressing just about anything that comes up inside of us. We might be bullied at school and be filled with fear, but we have no one to go to talk about it. And instead of feeling the fear inside of our body and understanding that the fear is valid, we might shove it down, stuffing it, pretending that everything's okay, pretending that it doesn't bother us. Because in that moment, if we were to show fear, then the bully might take control and escalate things. And so there are situations that we begin to go, oh, this isn't safe to show this emotion, so I just need to stuff it. Then what ends up happening is we become filled with secondary emotions or feelings. So because we can't feel the fear, now we're riddled with anxiety. Anxiety is like a hint of fear, but we don't really know where it's originating from. It just sort of buzzes inside of us. And what we should know is that it's alerting us to this repressed fear. But because it's so vaguely sort of buzzing around inside of us, we often don't know what's triggering that feeling because we've already suppressed the fear. So after going through life gradually and consistently, suppressing more and more emotions, more feelings, more parts of ourselves even. You might be a person who's really bubbly, happy, and chipper and cheery, and that's just in your nature. But you had caregivers who weren't accepting of this. Maybe they said you were too hyper, you needed to calm down, you talked too much, you were too vibrant. And so they really took it into their own hands to dim your light, to sort of break you down because it was overwhelming to them. And so you learn to take pieces of yourself, not just your emotions, but parts of yourself that are true to you, but you feel are no longer safe to express or to be. And so you will take those and you will stuff those down too. Well, after an entire lifetime of stuffing emotions, feelings, and parts of ourselves into backpack or shadow, we grow up learning not to feel, not to be in our bodies, not to accept what's going on here. And then we begin to shift. We begin to shift from our bodies and we shift into mind, our mental capacity. We are now relying on this to use facts and figures to come up with logic so that we can make our decisions based on that. Not our intuition, not our guidance of our emotions, because that's what emotions are. They are our internal guidance system. Fear alerts you. It's not bad. Fear alerts you to what is potentially dangerous. You know, if a tiger comes walking up the street or the sidewalk and you see this tiger, fear tells you, hey, you better get the heck out of here. This is not safe. Fear is a very handy emotion. It can save your life. Fear can also tell us, you know, when a situation is no longer good for us. So maybe a person, you know, your body will start to be fearful when you're in their presence. That is alerting you that something is off. You need to maybe stay away from this person or make a new friend. Let's see, anger. Anger is beautiful. Anger tells us where our boundaries should be. Anger tells us what we should and should not put up with. Anger tells us a lot about who we are and what we are okay with and what we're not okay with, what we want out of life and what we don't want out of life. And the problem is, as children, we're often told that anger is unacceptable. You can't be angry with your parents, especially, or there's consequences. And so you learn that anger is bad or negative and you start ignoring it. You suppress it. So even the so-called negative emotions that we have and we feel, they're not negative. They are there to guide us to make certain decisions, to, you know, leave a situation, to make a new friend, to stay away from a location, to not hang out with these people, to not do this thing, you know. And so our emotions are vital in protecting us. They keep us safe. They keep us informed about what's good and what's not good for us. And so when we override this and we rely simply on logic, we find ourselves in a lot of trouble. You know, what looks good on paper, what makes sense on paper, may not be good or make sense in here. But by not trusting this and only trusting this, we might find that we end up in a lot of situations that later blow up in our face. And then we can't figure out, well, what happened? It's because you were not connected here. You were not following your guidance system. And so we have been trained away from our bodies and into our minds. But our mind was designed to be secondary to our emotions. So our emotions give us the flag, the alert, hey, this is unsafe. And then our mind can then choose, okay, this is unsafe based on that emotion because I'm trusting what the emotion is telling me. Now I'm going to make decisions based off of that. But that is the original guidance. And so your mind comes secondary to your body. So when we're trained the other way, not only do we end up with a giant backpack filled with shadow material, repressed emotions, we become cut off from who we really are. We no longer trust our intuition, so we're cut off from that too. And we begin to only focus here. And that's when we find ourselves in really traumatic situations, you know, that looked good, all the facts and figures added up. It's like you get out your calculator and 2 + 2 = 4. But, well, what happened? That's what happened. And so understanding, like, operating out of logic alone is going to get you in trouble. It's going to land you in some pretty tricky places. And then another thing that may happen when we are completely relying on logic and not our body is mental breakdown. So over time, the shadow material, all of these emotions, repressed parts of ourselves, emotions are energy in motion. That is where the word emotion came from. It's an energetic charge. So once it builds, it has to be fully felt and acknowledged in order to be released. Well, if we're ignoring our emotions and we're stuffing them, we have a ridiculous amount of energetic charge inside of us that has nowhere to go, because we're not fully acknowledging our emotions. And so it sits inside of us and it builds, it collects, it builds. And what begins to happen is, because we're ignoring all of this, so we're numb, we're only relying on the mind, our mind begins to break down. Because your psyche, after it's just had enough, is going to say, you know what? I can only get their attention through here because this is all they're paying attention to anymore. So I'm going to break this down. I'm going to cause severe anxiety, depression. OCD, schizophrenia, psychosis, whatever it might be. I'm going to destroy this and their complete reliance on mental processing and thinking, which is flawed. So I'm going to tear that down. And then they're going to have no choice but to pay attention. Well, the problem is a lot of times we have mental breakdown. We seek out counselors, therapists, and they're like, oh, hey, here, take this medication. Let's numb that. Let's get rid of this, because they're not addressing the root. And the root is that you left the body and you went to the mind. And now your psyche, so who you really are, your true essence, is going, hey, I'm going to break that down because you're not paying attention down here. You have numbed yourself and distanced yourself from your emotions. And so it takes away your only reliable guidance system, the only thing you're relying on right now, so that you have no choice but to go back here. Well, if we don't know how to correct this and this, what can further happen is then physical health issues. So then your body will begin to break down, because this energy is going to become so charged that it has no choice but to get your attention through the body. So at this point, mental breakdown, physical breakdown, we really have no idea how to heal. So we're chasing doctors. They're giving us diagnoses. They're writing us prescriptions. They don't know what's going on. It's mystery symptoms, and it doesn't matter if it's cancer, autoimmune, an injury, fibromyalgia. It can be anything, a torn ligament, a torn rotator cuff, severe fatigue, Lyme disease, issue with mold, any. It doesn't matter what it is. Take the label away, and whatever physical body symptom you're having, that's what's causing it. And so your body is not trying to attack you or turn against you. It's trying to get your attention. It wants you to come back to it and to feel what's there, because all of this trapped energy is just buzzing around. It has nowhere to go. It needs to be discharged. And so by ignoring our body and living in our mind, it's like the beginning to the end. It is the beginning of breakdown. And the bad thing is we are conditioned to go into this state. I don't think purposely by our caregivers, but we were often dealing with parents or caregivers or teachers who were overwhelmed. They weren't connected to their own body and their emotions. They weren't empathetic. They were busy, stressed, overwhelmed, traumatized, whatever. So they didn't have the capacity to deal with it. So it was easier for them to override it. Therefore, we override it, leading to eventual breakdown. And so coming back to my channel, I really want to go into how to heal this, how to come back to your body, somatic practices to help you to connect with your body again, how to correct mental health issues. And I'm doing all of this through experience. I'm going to tell you a little bit of my story before I let you guys go. I did the exact same thing. I was conditioned just the same way. And as I got older, my backpack became so filled, so crammed with just crap, with emotions, with rage and anger and sadness and frustration and pain and trauma, that it eventually led to mental breakdown. So I had what felt like psychosis, which then led to like schizophrenia / OCD, and I had always experienced like anxiety, which is like a secondary feeling. So I've always been riddled with anxiety. I've battled depression throughout different parts of my life, and then the big breakdown came later. And then when that came, it's like I didn't know what to do. So I was attempting to fix and heal everything mentally through my mind, because of my mind, but you can't heal your mind through your mind. You have to do it through your body. And so eventually, after enough time had gone by and this was not corrected, this was not being compassionately addressed within myself because I didn't have the tools at the time, then that led to physical breakdown and my body began to degenerate. And it's crazy because it's like your emotions feed your thoughts and your thoughts feed your emotions, and it's like this circular thing. And so getting to the root corrects all of it. And so that was what I had to do. And so the last couple of years has been a journey for me. I have been doing all of this essentially alone, through research, through reading, through YouTube videos, through, just intuitive nudges and promptings. So I had to correct all of this without therapy, without doctors knowing what was going on with me, without anything really. And I tried everything. And so I'm really excited to come on here and show you guys what actually works. So whether you are dealing with OCD, anxiety, depression, schizophrenia, psychosis, whether you are dealing with physical symptoms, so you could be, it can manifest in so many different ways. You could have CFS, which is chronic fatigue syndrome. You could have POTS, you could have Lyme, you could have autoimmune, which covers a broad range of symptoms. You could have body pain, joint pain, arthritis. You could have, it can be anything, quite literally anything. If it can show up in the mind, if it can show up in the body, it can be addressed and fixed the exact same way. And so I can't wait to help walk you guys back into healing. And I'm really excited to share everything that I have been learning, everything that I have implemented, what works, what doesn't work, the root of coming out of all of this. And I want to do it free. So my best bet was coming back to YouTube, because I was on YouTube previously and I deleted everything, but now I'm back and I'm ready to walk you guys through this healing. So if you are living completely from the mind, now would be the best time to drop back into the body, to experience what is there, even though it can feel debilitating doing that. But going back into the body and really just addressing what's there with compassion and with love, and doing the work now before it turns into a mental break, or just even low level, mental health issues. Those are just no fun too, anxiety conditions, or depression, or if you've even gone into physical body symptoms, this is for you. This is the beginning of your healing. And so I'm excited to be with you guys. I love you guys, and God bless.